Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 21 of the Bennu Community Podcast. And this is where we dive into honest conversations with change makers, doers, and dreamers who are shaping the future of work, learning, and community. Today's episode is really special for me because I'm sitting down with two Flow founders I actually met through the Venture Lab North business development program and in Groningen, in fact. And we spent almost 1 year every week on Fridays to learn, to develop the ideas, sharing the knowledge and the things like that. That was really interesting experience for me. Nicolas and also Jelle.
Hello.
Hello. They are the brains behind, in fact, FormuLearn, a startup they launched as students to make learning math more accessible, less frustrating, and way more intuitive. Nicholas is now doing his master's in biomedical engineering, as I know, and Yella also is the master's student, continuing his journey in artificial intelligence. And together, they are building a platform that helps students tackle formulas and concepts in a smarter way using tech, AI, and great design. Today, we are going to chat about how they came up with the idea and what it's like running a company while juggling studies, the role of AI in learning, and what they have learned about taking an idea and just going for it. So let's jump in. First of all, thank you both for joining me. Maybe you want to add something about yourself, maybe introduce yourself, or maybe I missed something to share. Let's start with, I don't know, the youngest one or the oldest one. Which one?
Yeah, sure. I can start. I think you about covered it. There's not that much to me. Um, yeah, as Ben said, I'm a student. Run FormuLearn
Oh, wait.
account in AI.
Just ask, what's your name? Because I know you, but maybe.
Yo, okay. Sorry, audience.
Or Nick.
Yeah, my name's Nick or Nicholas. Nicholas Roy. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn or wherever you look for people. Yeah, I study biomedical engineering, studied AI, founded FormuLearn a couple years ago, where we met our dear friend Ben.
Yeah, and I'm Jelle. I'm 24 years old. I'm a master's student in AI. I met Nick in the bachelor AI actually in Groningen. And yeah, I mean, we were already friends when we started FormuLearn. But I still remember him messaging me that he had a business idea and then giving me the presentation on the initial idea. I mean, we're pretty far from the initial idea now, although the main core concept, I guess, still is sort of the same. But yeah, it's been a breeze working with Nick for the past 2 years now, I think. So or like a year and a half, something like that. So yeah.
So, which means Nick approached you and said, okay, I have an idea. And then you both decided to jump in and try to develop it. But at that time, that was kind of idea. And the point is, my question is, was there a moment where you said, wait, this could actually be something real? Because, usually we have lots of ideas and we want to make it possible. But I think one of the main points about you both in the past 2 years, it seems you both tried to focus or hyper focus to make it possible and make it real. How you decided to build something based on just an idea, not going for different ideas or just jump from one idea to another.
Yeah, so when Nick initially pitched the idea to me, I immediately kind of resonated with the problem. So I think he described it as having a problem. So maybe it's also good if we quickly sort of talk about what we do. So Ben already talked about it, but we try to make learning mostly applied math more intuitive for students. And he talked about a problem where he was doing like a personal side project and he had to incorporate some equations from a completely different field. It was like material science, I think, or fluid.
Yeah, I was learning about fluid mechanics, and there was a part of it that needed knowledge from material science, which didn't seem intuitively related at first.
Yeah, and this whole problem of needing the prerequisite knowledge to some complex math equations like immediately resonated with me because we were taking this course called neural networks at the time, and I had like the week before spent a couple hours trying to figure out like one equation. And initially Nick pitched this idea to me as like, hey, why don't we create like a Wikipedia kind of for equations, like, you know, a complete repository of the equations that are, you know, present everywhere in science. And now we're kind of far from that, you know, we're much more focused on actually selling this to publishers. But I guess that is where our idea originated from. And over the years we've realized that, or over the years, no, it sounds kind of nostalgic, but over the time we realized that, you know, the initial idea maybe wasn't really viable. But the idea of making this knowledge more accessible to people, making it easier to retrieve this prerequisite knowledge is really something that students, you know, do all the time in their own studying. And we think we can make that process a little bit easier. So I guess that's what we're doing now.
What I understand, it means it started from your personal issue or struggle, and then you decided to develop the idea and bring some solutions, and then, of course, during the time you decided to pivot and something like that. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That about covers it.
yeah, we just kind of did it that way. And then, you know, along the way, we talked to a bunch of people and we learned about how to iterate, get feedback, see what people actually need, what the problem is we're actually trying to solve. So we did learn a lot about that in over the time too.
So just for uplifting myself, I want to ask you if you want to, for people like me, I mean, because after a few months, I'm sure that you already decided to change something in the way you decided to, you know, develop your business. For those who haven't seen FormuLearn yet, how would you explain it in one paragraph?
Sure. So maths and maths-based content like physics and engineering are traditionally taught in a bottom-up and linear fashion, starting with simpler concepts that then build on top of each other like a brick wall. But like building a brick wall, you can't build on top of what's not there. And what's not there in this analogy are missing gaps in a student's understanding. And these can come about if you're sick or you just fail to understand something, maybe forget something from an earlier course. So by really creating a huge repository, so that's really the core that Yellow was talking about a little earlier, we can allow students, also via an interactive format, to easily trace back exactly what they're struggling to understand. And in that way, fill in the gaps in their understanding and properly learn the maths that they need to learn to make the discoveries and innovations of the future, if you want to be a little overly excited.
So which means this is exactly what makes it different from other learning platforms, right?
Right. It's personalized learning, but in a rather unique way in that it's very student directed.
We can mention this is your innovation towards developing this idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you go from just an idea to actually building your first version? Because in the beginning, as I remember, you didn't have any kind of, I mean, even in the beginning, you didn't have anything to show, as I remember. You just had kind of idea, and then you started to work on it. Am I right?
You're half right. So when we started in around July-ish, August of 23, we basically decided we were going to start building immediately. Although we had serious trouble with that because we both had an AI background, but none in web development. This is when we were trying to make a Wikipedia for equations. So we made a little bit of progress, but we were really, really, really struggling. Eventually, when we joined VentureLab, one of the first things they taught us, as I'm sure you know, Ben, is it's great that you're doing that, but why don't you stop and go do some market research? For the audience, you know, maybe your audience may already know about this, but the Mum Test is a very good book about this concept of first validating your idea and learning about your customer and what will actually sell, and then going and building it. So what we really needed and what VentureLab, now InnoKite, gave us was a completely different perspective on how to build a company. So from there, we were like, okay, we don't really know what we're doing. We're both young students. Why don't we just take their advice? They know better than us. So we went just into we were building something for students, and we were students, so it was pretty convenient. We just went on campus, started interviewing students, made surveys, asked our lecturer if we could put a QR code for surveys, up on the front. And from there, we ended up doing focus groups, things like that. And then we actually knew what we wanted to build. And that really gave us the direction we needed to make any progress on building the product that we have now. So that was our first MVP. We've of course come a long way since then, but that was really how we started. If that answers your question, then.
Yes, of course. And then, as I know, uh, yeah, almost you were the only people who joined that program, and from the beginning, you were a team. Uh, you are too young in terms of, I mean, maybe staying for long term as co-founders, because when you are working as co-founders in kind of these ideas and these atmospheres, sometimes lots of things happens and you need to learn more. You need to, I mean, empower yourself in terms of different skills, soft skills, transferable skills, and things like that. As a next question, I want to ask you, how do you split your roles as co-founders? Because as I remember, your personalities, the way you are thinking, the way you are acting, even your habits and the things like that, as I remember, are totally different. But still you are working with each other. And I think it's really interesting and amazing. How do you split your roles and how you cope with the challenges when you are working with each other?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I think this is interesting thing, I think this is something that we, especially in the beginning, also evaluated a lot on. So, what kind of roles do we take? What kind of responsibilities do we take on? And I think in the end, we kind of naturally rolled into the f- the roles that we wanted to, that we're better at, I guess. And I used to always think kind of, as Nick as being the engine and me sort of being the brakes and the steering wheel. Although that is maybe an oversimplification, because I do think, and this is something that people always say in startups, but it is, you are kind of doing every job all at once, right? Like you're the janitor and the CEO at the same time. And I think that is really something that is much more important to highlight here, is that we do everything, all of us essentially. And even though maybe Nick is a little bit more pronounced on the tech part and I'm a little bit more pronounced on the organizational part, um, if he is not able to make it to some meeting to do it, and he would normally always do that, then I will step in. And I guess it's important to note that also we are both tech people and we do enjoy business sides. If I think I enjoy it a little bit more than Nick does. But also we have started looking out there, to how we could complement our team, because we have also brought on a new co-founder, Bob Jordans, who does marketing, which is something that we are,
Trash at.
yeah,
We do.
saying it lively. Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is something, we really complement each other in some ways, but also it's just everyone does everything. And I think that is really the most important thing in a startup like this. You need to be able to jump in when it's needed.
Yeah. Just to add on that, Ben, you pointed out that we are quite different, and I think you're completely right in terms of our temperaments, right? Like our personalities. Um, but I also think that we have a few like very core similarities, which our friendship and then eventually our business partnership was built on. Um, in that I think we both value simultaneously um, creating good in the world, while simultaneously also valuing the business side of, making money and a lot of things. And I think that, many people uh, might have that, but I think we really clicked on that. Um, and I think that that's like really a core foundation that helps. So for instance, I'm quite religious, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Yella, you're less so. Uh,
True. Yeah.
but we both still have, and sort of that's a difference in the manifestations of our core philosophies. but I think there is something in the core that is still aligned, and that's really where we click, and then where we both have the same vision, and it allowed us to really align our visions. And I think it's been very productive over the last year and a bit.
Yeah, which means you have learned how to work with your, not just with your similarities, but also with your differences, and to complete your skill sets, I mean, one another, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So let's go further and ask about your experts, because I thought at least Yele already finished his study, but now both of you are a student as well at university. What's it like trying to build a company at the same time you are studying?
Mm.
How you manage your time, your priorities, and things like that?
That's a great question. Why don't you start?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I've realized that it means giving up so much. I felt like very full social life. Also, I really like to hang out with my friends. I like to, play chess, do sports. Um, my parents, they both have their own SMEs, small medium sized companies. And they also need help. I live with my brothers who um really moved in away from their parents for the first time. And, recently I got a girlfriend too. And balancing all of this, I'm really starting to realize that everything kind of suffers. Things fall through the cracks. And that is just something that I have started to accept. I always wanted to do everything perfectly. And now I've realized that it just means it's kind of damage control most of the time. And yeah, and I think the most important thing is that it doesn't stress you out when things don't go well. So even if things don't go well, you just keep going and make the best of it. And that seems to be working out. And as long as I'm enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing it this way because I feel that this is right now the path for me. I'm 24. I have so much energy. I want to, make the best use of my time. And even though my sleep might suffer a little bit, that's fine for me now. Now,
Which means good enough is enough for now for you.
yeah, and I always strive for better than good enough, but you have to accept that good enough is good enough at some point because otherwise it won't work. Doing a full time study and doing a startup and trying to see my friends every now once in a while, my parents, make time for my girlfriend. It's impossible to do everything perfectly then. So
That's right. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, that's tough. Um, One thing I've really found is that when you have things to do, like when you take on responsibilities, you always find a way to um get it done. Like in high school, I was one of the laziest kids. Like I would not do my homework, mostly because I wasn't interested, right? Like I was fortunate enough to be able to get away with that and still do quite well. But
We're smart enough not to do your homeworks.
I don't mean to toot my own horn too much, but thanks for doing that for me, Ben. But yes. Um, but I noticed when I went to university, it started off pretty similar. Um, but as I started to as I let my curiosity lead me, right? Like, oh, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this. I started doing personal projects before equation ontology, our old name, now FormuLearn. Um, I found that I would sort of just find the time because I had taken on that responsibility. And now that my responsibilities have grown and grown and grown and grown, you just sort of end up finding the time to do it. So if anyone listening, maybe helpful to your audience, feels like you're not conscientious enough, you're not hardworking enough, yeah, maybe that's true. But the way to change that is to take on the responsibility and then become conscientious enough. Throw imposter syndrome out the window. You grow by being an imposter, and then eventually you fill that role. So at least that's the way I've managed it. Like I'm actually taking 25 credits right now, which is ridiculous, and I should not be doing that. But you do find the time. Uh, like, of course there's a limit, but it's way less likely that you'll go over what you can manage than you'll go. Like, you're more likely to take on too little than too much, even if you're trying to take on a lot.
I completely agree with this. It's just filling up your calendar as full as it can go and seeing, kind of throw it at the wall and see what sticks. That is kind of, and then you start to productivity just increases because you have to. You have no other choice. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
That's great. As I remember, also, you both have been open for taking advice from others, talking with different coach or mentors and things like that. You are young in a way. And as maybe you also know, as fellow community, we are busy with providing some opportunities, workshops, programs, and things like that for international students and students in general, mostly for now in the north of the Netherlands. That's why imagine maybe some people who are listening to this episode are students. My question is, in terms of mentoring and coaching opportunity, have you had any specific experiences you want to share with the audiences, or maybe any kind of experience or insights that you think it's really important to find more rooms for finding people, asking them for coaching, for mentoring, and the things like that?
Yeah, if I can say something on that. So I think you might remember this, Ben, but in one of the first trainings we had, it was not even a training, it was a talk in the business program. It was Moritz Engerman from ARC or Pulse now, I think. And one of the things he mentioned in that talk, and this thing has really stuck with me, is that he said, if you don't know something or don't know how to do it, go out and ask someone who's done it before and just have them check if you're taking the right approach. And I think this is really something that we have taken to heart. And it has really worked well for us. And then, I found over the last 2 years that pretty much everyone is willing to help us out if we just ask nicely. It's just, for some reason, I think humans are inclined to help each other out. And, for whatever reason that is, I don't want to speculate on that right now, but I would do that too. And I think that has given us so much. In the program, we got access to a couple of hours of expert coaching where if we needed some expertise, someone in the program would connect us to an expert on that field. And we talked to lawyers, I think. We talked to subsidy coaches. You know, you can either try to figure out something by yourself, or you can go out and ask someone who's done it before. And that has really, really worked well for us, I think. And it's something that we're still doing to this day. These days, we're taking a little bit of a different approach. We're just we would go on LinkedIn, look for the position that we need, for the expertise that we need, and then send them a message. But, it really highlights the importance of expanding your network too, like both online and also, in real life, because there are people with the expertise you need basically always. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, pride will shoot you in the foot every single time. If you think that you can do something on your own that's, really complicated and you're a dumbass student like me, you're wrong. You cannot do it on your own. You'll think you've done a decent job, but the chances are you've not. And it's almost certainly not going to be up to an industry standard if you try and do it on your own. If, on the other hand, you get advice from others, they will tell you what you didn't even realize you didn't know. Like, I think it was actually the saying of VentureLab, like their official slogan or motto, something like that. You don't know what you don't know. And that is absolutely true. But if you're, let's say, at the Hansa, like Ben is working with through Benno Community, or you're in the North, or you're at any institution, you're in the perfect place. You don't go to university for the learning. Like, well, I mean, it's part of it, of course. But the best thing you get out of it is access to people and resources by a long shot. So take advantage of that, right? People there, like as a student, if you go to ask them, everyone wants to help out a student, just ask people. And if they reject you, that's going to be a very rare occurrence. But if they do, go find someone else, because a bunch of people know what they're doing because they have way more experience than you. decades more experience than you. And if you're like, okay, for instance, I'm 21, right? Which means in practice, I'm 3 years old because for the first 18 years, I was under the responsibility of my parents. I know nothing. The people I talk to, though, are maybe like 20, 30 years old if they're in their 40s or 50s, assuming you don't count their childhood. And this is obviously an exaggeration, but at your age, you don't know anything. Go and ask.
Fabulous. I like it. The approach to be open to new possibilities, learning from others, and all the time try to be as much as possible curious, which is really important. Acting as kids. As I remember, you mentioned you started your journey in business side after joining Venture Lab North program, right?
Yeah, that was really the start of it.
Yeah. So, but let's talk about the tech side.
Sure.
I mean, I'm really curious to ask some questions related to tech, AI, and the future of learning. And first of all, how are you using AI or tech in FormuLearn to make learning more effective?
Yeah, great question. So, one thing we found, and this was, quite a while ago, it was already a year ago, and it was still the case then. So it's definitely even more the case now. A bunch of students were using ChatGPT to help them learn, to explain concepts, right? Like you'll read something, you'll look into something, and there's a certain aspect you don't understand, so you'll just ask about that. It's like having a personalized tutor already, like ChatGPT on its own. And that's fantastic. We also spoke, though, to publishers, to universities, to these institutions, who, on the one hand, are pretty afraid of AI because it's going to outcompete them, if we want to be realistic. But on the other hand, are scared to incorporate it because you can't be certain of the output. So one of the ways that we are intending and are already, have some proof of concepts for and demos for, and are really pushing forward, is the idea of preloading a lot of this. So earlier I talked about the network of mathematics, which I think it is a network. And that's really the way you learn about STEM in general. You connect what you know to other things and you solidify your understanding. But and there's a lot to that. It's an insane amount of information and content that you need. But if you tried to generate that on the go, as you might be doing with an AI as a personal tutor, which by the way, I think is great and is absolutely a place for, and I think there are companies doing that, you always have the risk of hallucination or things not quite working or things being antithetical. Or one funny example, like let's say you're teaching 12-year-olds and it says, it takes 8 students a day to smoke 1,200 cigarettes. It's like, that's not a question you want to ask kids. So there are all these risks with the fundamentally, stochastic or probabilistic nature of these things. And that's really where a human in the loop comes in and the advantage of collaborating with these institutions. So what we really want to do is, rather than replace them, to augment them and get as much of the benefit of using these models as possible, of being able to dive in and look deeper by using them to generate these networks of, being able to go back and understand more. While still being certain that things are right and okay, which is what these publishers and universities and big institutions excel at, because their reputation depends on it. They better excel at it. So that's really our philosophy around how we can use AI and collaborate that with existing institutions to improve education and learning. If that answers your question, I think it did.
Definitely, there are some myths or misunderstanding about the role of AI in education. I'm thinking about the future of learning and the future of education. And for me, it seems you are also trying to bring some solutions and values for the future, not just for today.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really curious to know your ideas, how you think about, when you are looking a few years ahead, where do you see AI taking education? And in terms of future of education or future of learning, what are your imaginations? Let's
Sure.
frame that.
Great question.
Yeah, so as Nick said, like right now, there's always a human in the loop. That's kind of our philosophy. But I do see use cases where full automation is possible. And of course, um, something that we have noticed over the past year, also talking to students and teachers, is that there's quite a high demand for very personalized learning. Nick mentioned this before as well, where like thinking about it in terms of like gamification, for example, your reward is not based on your performance, but it's more so based on your effort, right? So you don't get rewarded for getting the correct answer, but maybe you get rewarded for putting in a bunch of effort to try and get there, right? Like this is the way you learn, but start trying and doing things. Um, and I think that this is really an area where AI can excel. So it could, for example, adapt the level of difficulty for practice problems, to
Real time.
real time, adapt the difficulty of practice problems to the level of the student, for example. And this is something that's not done much now that we know of, but there is a high demand for this as far as we can tell. And I think this is one of the, most important changes that's going to be happening, just personalized level of exercises.
Like this is a very nerdy AI analogy, but if you can think about the way that some of these adversarial models are trained. So for maybe the less technical audience, these would be like the way that deep fakes are made, right? So what you actually have here are these two models that are competing with each other. The really interesting thing there is that, and another example would be how they, like this is sort of prior to the large language model paradigm shift. But if you look at things like what the team at Google was doing, right? Like DeepMind with their models for chess, like and for Go, like AlphaGo, things like that. Yeah, AlphaZero for chess. You effectively had these models playing against each other. But the really interesting thing there is they learn best when they're very similar in performance. And I think this is exactly the same with children. I think like in psychology, you can read about how adults will, like when talking to a young child, will naturally shift their language to be just above the level of the child, right? You don't want to go too far above, because otherwise the child will have no idea what you're talking about and won't be able to follow you. But you don't want to be under their level, because then they're not learning anything. You want to be slightly above. And I think that applies to everything. For humans to learn something, it needs to be just above. And that's really where personalized learning comes in. It can take away all of these redundancies of not being able to understand a certain aspect. And, it really teaches you where you're at. It needs to come down to your level. And then from there, you can grow most quickly and most effectively. Now, of course, there's some degree for forcing someone to adapt to a larger change, and there's place for that. But I think in general, you can really learn best when it comes down to just above your level, to sort of push you along.
Which means it's kind of future plan for you guys at FormuLearn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really where education is going to go, or at least before, Elon Musk's Neuralink will, inject the knowledge directly into your brain. But until that happens, which I think is probably still a few decades away at the very least, the best way to learn is to really get you down to just above your level and really, pull them along.
In past 2 years, you both have been working on your idea. What's one big lesson you've learned on this journey that you didn't expect? I mean, something surprising.
Yeah, so might be weird that this was kind of a surprise to me, because I think this is something that we even discussed in the beginning. Nick kind of talked about this the journey that we took in the beginning of how we started building, and then kind of went back, interviewed a bunch of people, started doing focus groups instead of building, just validating the problem first and the solution that we thought of. And I think that sounds really nice, but it also kind of romanticizes the whole actuality of the situation, which is that it was really very messy, and then we had to do a lot of things that we were uncomfortable with doing. So walking up to someone and asking them if we could interview them on their studying habits, that is something that still makes me a little bit, awkward sometimes. Like, not, it's not, I've gotten more confident in doing stuff I'm not comfortable with, but it doesn't really come naturally to me. I think that is like a lot of what we've been doing over the past 2 years, just constantly doing things that maybe are a little bit out of our comfort zone, just thinking like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
There's a saying in Dutch that you often quote when talking about this. Assholes of half the world.
Oh, right. Yeah. So there's a saying in Dutch, which is like, the people who are,
And Dutch first.
yeah, brutaal hebben de halve wereld. It basically means, that the confident people, I guess. Confident's not really the right word, but that they have half the world, and just going out doing things. And now it might seem, oh, cool journey. We just went ahead and interviewed people, but we had to learn how to interview people, how to write up the interviews. We have to go out to meetings. We have to, like, right now we're actually talking to a potentially big client, and we brought some cakes to the meeting for everyone to have. And then we're like, is this normal to do? Is this what people do in situations like this? Like, you still get a little bit insecure about new stuff, but then it was really well received. And then I was like, okay, I'm super happy we did this. And I think that is the biggest lesson, that, you just go out and do things. And really, that is what most people doing, even when they have experience,
Yeah,
between quotes.
for sure. Like one thing I'd add to that is people will believe the version of you show them, right? If you give off the impression that you're confident and what you're doing, like asking to interview them about their study habits, is completely normal, they'll just believe you that it's completely normal, even inside you're thinking it's not. So I remember the first few times when I'd go and interview, there were a few times I was doing it on my own, a few times Jelle did it on his own, a few times we did it together. The first few times I did it on my own, I was really nervous. Like, hey, looks like you're procrastinating. Maybe you want to, interview with us. We actually mainly targeted people who looked like they were procrastinating, give them an excuse. And also they were, maybe a bit less studious, so would better be served from our tool. But anyway, the first few times, my rejection rate was far higher. Because it wasn't confident. And eventually, one time when I was a bit more excited, the testosterone was flowing through my veins, and I was like, okay, let's go. But they just seemed excited, and they were like, yeah, sure. And then after that, I just put on that front, more times, and people were just like, yeah, sure. It wasn't a problem at all. So I think that Dutch saying of, confident people, to use a euphemism, have half the world, is absolutely true. And when you show that impression, people will just believe you because it's easier.
Which means sometimes your responsibility plus your passion work very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Convince people to join your movement or your idea or your venture or anything like that. Good.
I can understand how cult leaders do so well.
So let's ask some casual fun questions. Not very fun, but some casual questions. What's one thing you both totally disagree on when working together?
We've had a few times where we've had.
I think the biggest disagreement we had was when we were deciding when to officially incorporate the company. Nick was like, we need to do it now. And I was like, no, we need to wait. And we ended up figuring it out by getting a third party involved. And so kind of what we talked about before.
And I should make it clear, whenever you have a major disagreement with someone you're working with, keep things like you should never have any anger towards the other person inside. And I think we did a very good job at that.
Yeah.
We were very polite. We understood, we did our best to understand the other's perspective. Anger in a conversation like that is going to destroy your partnership with each other. Just keep in mind that the other person is on your side. Like it's something, you often hear relationship advice people give. It's not you against the other person. It's both of you against the problem.
Yeah. And I think finding common ground, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the way to handle things. And yeah.
Great.
But also getting a third party to mediate very helpful because they can help you understand the other's perspective and vice versa.
Any funny or weird moments from pitching the idea to others you have experienced so far?
Weird or funny?
I mean, I don't know, weird or funny, but good moments for sure. You know, when you pitch the idea to someone and they're like, whoa, you know, this is such a good idea. That is really an amazing feeling, I think. That's how we also met our third co-founder by pitching the idea to him. And he was like, oh, yeah, I so get that idea. You're so right. And that just, you know, that's just an amazing feeling to when people are like, I guess, validating your idea.
I tried to ask whatever I thought could be good to ask, but maybe I missed something or you want to add or emphasize on something that you think it's really important and critical. If you want to share something more, feel free to share it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, one thing that's coming to mind is you said that, the reason you thought this conversation might be helpful is because a lot of your audience or your listeners are students, because that's really what the Benin community is designed for. What I'd say to them is just take on responsibility. I don't mean to sound too Jordan Peterson-esque, although I suppose it's the same message, but that particular aspect is completely true. If you've got an idea of something cool to do, just start it. If you want to do X, Y, Z, just do it, because like it either goes incredibly well or you learn something helpful. And if you're young like we are, and I'm sure most of your audience are, you have literally nothing to lose. Like, you have less, but that also means you have less to lose. So yeah, starting and doing stuff is the way anything happens. And you're never going to feel perfectly ready, but when you start, you'll notice cool things happen.
Yeah, and I think also, like, you know, he's completely right in it, and it's much more meaningful than, you know, the things that you would normally do to fill up the time.
What else
Like,
do you do? Watch Netflix?
well, yeah,
Play a video game?
there's nothing wrong with that, but I still do that, but and way less, you know? It's not,
Yeah.
I'm not laying on the couch all the time playing video games. It's I just an activity to relax, you know? And I think doing something more meaningful is also, you know, I think it's a lot more fun to do.
Yeah. You absolutely, like, at the hardest part is the beginning. After that, you just start to enjoy it. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're rafting on a river or something and just trying to not drown. Yeah.
That's a nice ending. Big thanks. Big thanks to you both for joining me. I love seeing how you both turn a personal learning challenge into kind of solution that's, who knows, maybe helping others, lots of people in the future. Your story is really great, and I worked a lot with the people. I'm still a little bit older than you both, and I worked a lot in terms of providing different programs, different workshops in different settings for young generation, and I see how you try to turn your ideas into reality, working with each other, being open to new opportunities, and also try to put yourself out of your comfort zone
Mm.
and exploring more and more. And it's really amazing. Well done, guys. Yeah, I think if people who are listening to this episode are interested to learn more about you both, they can approach you on LinkedIn. We are sharing your LinkedIn profile on the description in the description of this episode, as well as they can check your website, which is FormuLearn, I think .org.
FormuLearn.org. FormuLearn.org.
Yes, and if people enjoyed this episode, they can share it with someone who is thinking about launching their own idea and also sharing the insights, the point.
If anyone listening would like to ask for advice, feel free to just
Or collaborate.
or collaborate,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Just send a personalized connection request on LinkedIn, and I'll almost certainly accept. So
Yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe also it's a good idea to share a link on your profile on LinkedIn, kind of Calendly or other platforms using for, booking time. If you have, it's really nice because it's simple and easy for helping them to schedule.
we're not as organized as you there.
I'm sharing more details with you later on, but
Your advice.
yeah. Also, if you are interested to join our club, we have a Benu Community Club, which is online community at Benu Community. And over there, we have different people who are founders, students, researchers, change makers, entrepreneurs, the things like that. They can collaborate and communicate with them as well. Thanks for listening. And as always, stay curious and keep exploring what's next. Thank you again and hope to see you soon, both.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.